Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the MarquetteHoops.com basketball show with the great John Dodds and our awesome producer, Jason Ruck. I'm Tom Pippins. And normally on this show, which is brought to you by Moonlight Grand, proud sponsor of the program, Moonlight Grand Modern Dental Benefits. Craig Caston, you're an MVP. Speaking of which, normally on the show, we're talking Marquette hoops. We're going to take a left turn today. But John, as you said, this may be the most important show that we've ever done. And we're very honored to have Maya Payne Smart with us this morning. Maya, welcome, and thank you for taking some of your valuable time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much for that. It is Reading for Our Lives, and it is a literacy action plan from birth to 6. So Maya is a mother. She's a wife of some guy named Shaka. I think we know him from somewhere. She's a literacy advocate and the author of this amazing book to help parents teach their children literacy at an early age, Reading for Our Lives. It's a provocative title, Maya, and it has a very touching dedication.
Yes. I tried to pick a title that was as dramatic as possible to try to highlight the urgency and importance of reading in our lives. It's not just reading for leisure or reading to pass a test even in school. It's reading to be able to navigate the most important things in our lives, careers, families, rights.
Now, what prompted this? Was it the birth of your beautiful 10-year-old daughter, Zara, or did it go even before that?
I'd always been a book lover and an avid reader, but really, once I had my daughter, I realized that I didn't know anything about the mechanics of how you actually learn to read. Because I read from such a young age, I didn't have memories of being taught. And so as a parent who's detail-oriented and very curious, I wanted to dig into what does it take to ensure that she has the same and even greater reading skill level that I have, and also just love for words and language. And as I got into that, I discovered so many news articles that described really vast disparities in reading achievement based on kids' income, their household income, or their parents' education level, or even things like their race or zip code. And so it sort of tipped into a larger mission of not just raising and nurturing reading in my own child, but documenting how every parent might be able to do the same thing.
Well, Maya, what really I found startling was this educational crisis and those who struggle to read from ages, 16 into their 70s.
It really is incredible, and it's hard for people who are skilled, fluent readers to imagine the truly low, basic, illiterate, in some cases, levels of reading of many adults in our society. You think, how can people navigate? How can they complete job applications or understand their apartment leases or vote in elections? And the reality is that many people can't, and they're just hidden from our view as people who are skilled, fluent readers.
You can tell this book has wonderful information, and it's a labor of love. You put your heart and soul into it, didn't you? It was, 10 years in the making?
Yes, many years. My daughter actually is now 11 years old, so I have a middle schooler, and my interest and passion for the topic began when she was little, but it just developed over time. I have a journalism background, so I started interviewing people and reading more and more documents, government reports, industry reports, academic journal articles. And then I started calling people up and saying, you've studied this for 20 years, and the research, the technology, the statistics are all very complex. But what's the simplest, practical, doable, impactful advice you would give to a parent? And so in the book, I tried to distill all of this wide-ranging research into the specific everyday practices, habits that parents can do.
You talk about the development of the brain in your wonderful book, Maya, and how important it is to start talking, be engaging, and even in the womb. I found that incredible.
Yes, many people think of reading and their children's reading as they approach kindergarten. So once formal education is on people's mind, then they start thinking about reading. Sometimes people, toddlers or preschoolers, will get into the habit of daily reading, but there's so much brain development and growth that happens from birth to 3. And the mechanism for that growth and development is a responsive, loving adult talking to the child, paying attention to their coos and babbles, treating it as conversation and responding. And so getting that dialogue going even before pre-verbal infants are speaking in words that we understand. So I really, in the subtitle, I put a literacy action plan from birth to 6 because I wanted to highlight my optimism that even though there are these devastating statistics about adult illiteracy rates and reading achievement challenges in elementary schools, if we start early, if we all do what we can to raise awareness of just the powerful role of parents in building vocabulary and oral language and the connections between that and literacy, we can do something. We can take action. We can have an impact. We just have to start early.
Thank you for that. I think you're telling parents, mothers in particular perhaps, that the importance of being present and constantly having that interaction in the business that we're in. Obviously, we do a lot of narrating. Narration is a big word, is it not?
It is. And I think some parents get the advice, talk to your little one all the time. If you're in the grocery store, describe the colors and shapes and textures and the fruit and the produce aisle. But you use the word interaction, and that's what the research indicates is most important. It's not just the adult word count, it's the child's word count. And we're counting their words and also coos and babbles for the younger ones. But it's the back and forth. The power is really in the dialogue and the child's attempt at vocalization and communication.
You talk of Zora being your beautiful daughter, your inspiration. Please, a mother and daughter, it's a very special relationship.
It is. One of the things that I'm most proud about this book, I always thought that I would write a book. Initially, I thought it would be a novel or something more literary, but this feels really powerful because there are stories in here about her, also about my dad. I have a story in the book about sharing a sonogram of her with him just before he passed away. So even though it's a practical how-to book for all parents, it does really feel like a family project. It's something that she inspired, and it's also something that as an elementary school student, she was able to see her mom work and develop. She witnessed much of this because we were all in the same house during the first year of COVID when everyone was quarantined. So I think years from now, it'll be a special memory for her. The book is dedicated to her, just to know that she too had an impact in raising awareness about the important role that parents play in nurturing literacy.
And for your father, how big a part of your life, your beautiful education, which includes, by the way, Harvard. John, I'm feeling a little smarter speaking to this woman, just sitting next to him. For a guy who talked to cameras for a living, you know what I'm saying? But your dad, that touching.
Yes, my dad was a lawyer. He was very verbal. I would always say he sort of held forth. So he could talk at length on any subject and did a lot of narration. But I credit that and also my mom's everyday conversations with me for, again, building the vocabulary, building the interest in words and language. He had a giant, as a child, it felt like it was this big. I wonder if I saw it now, if it really was that large, but a big, intimidating Webster's dictionary that sat in a podium in his home office. And sometimes I would ask him questions about words or things, and he would say, when in doubt, look it up. So at a very young age, I'm, turning the pages in this giant dictionary. And then I would go back to him and tell him what I thought the word meant, and we'd have conversation about that. So these tips and tools, even though they're focused on parents of children birth to 6, I know from my parents' examples that you continue to talk to your children, you continue to be in dialogue with them, you continue to try to build their vocabulary and their curiosity until they're 100 or however long.
I think it's really great that you were able, that Dad knew that you were having a beautiful daughter, and now he looks down and he's very proud. So how special was that to you? He didn't get to see her born, but he did know, hey, you're a grandpa. You're going to be a grandfather. Yes.
He said he thought it was a boy and he hoped it was a girl. So I was also comforted by this idea that he got what he wanted. So a granddaughter. And he always talked about how having a daughter transformed just the way he looked at the world in positive ways. So
father-daughter relationship, I'm blessed to know it. Jason, the same. It's special. I am overdue to pass the ball to John Dawes. I'm sorry, but I'm just so enjoying here. Take it away.
No, I'm the one that's enjoying it. Thank you very much, Maya, for being here. What resonated with me was my mom was a teacher. She graduated from Marquette and took some child developmental classes while she was there. So I was her oldest, so she said I was the guinea pig. And what she used to do is engage me a lot in, I love cars. So she would take me up to the Chevrolet, Ford. We look at the insignias on the various cars. When my dad would take us to get gas, that would always like, wow, we're full service gas back then where multiple people would come up and check the oil and do things. But we look at, mom would in the car would say, look, there's Shell, there's Enco, there's Standard. Actively engaging the child really resonated with me.
It does. And it's a simple thing. This idea of paying attention to the print that's in your natural environment, on signage, at the gas station, when you're driving through the neighborhood, license plates, all those things. But your mom thought to do it naturally, or maybe as a result of some of the training that she had gotten in child development. But I think every parent, if they knew how impactful that was, they would start to point and trace letters and bring their child's attention to it. And it's so powerful for kids to pay attention to print. We learn when we're paying attention, and to learn about the lines, dots, and curves that make up letters, and to learn the names of those letters that we're ready to take advantage of classroom instruction in kindergarten.
My favorite player of all time is Bill Walton, and I've mentioned that before. He always quotes John Wooden as saying, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And it seemed like your book message is, don't wait till your child is 6 learning phonics in school. It's be active early, engage them, and they'll be so much better off. They'll understand how to read much quicker.
Absolutely. The kids who really thrive when they get to formal education have a foundation for it. They have words, because it's not just a matter of learning to sound out letters that C, A, and T are cat. They have to know it's a 4-legged creature that's furry and says meow, and have all this sort of context and background knowledge. And so I think parents underestimate that the goal isn't just to be able to sound out words, it's to be able to comprehend and make meaning out of longer and longer passages. So anytime you're having a conversation, whether you have a book in hand or not, it's just this wonderful opportunity to introduce your child to words and concepts and things that will make more of the reading they do later make sense.
Technology is expanding, and want to get your impressions of the impact. And I know, researching this, that you made a comment that it's almost better for a child to have a cardboard book that they can hold and they can do things, rather than reading something off of a iPhone or an iPad or something like that.
Yes. So for the littlest kids, there are these board books, and it's kind of a thick paper that's really durable, because the little ones are still developing their skills, their motor skills. So they're throwing the book, they're patting it and slapping at it, they're trying to chew it, they're doing all these tactile sensory things with it. And that is more valuable for them than sort of the flat experience of trying to swipe on a screen when they're really young, because they're learning that the pages turn. And if you're pointing and tracing the lines as you read, they're learning that text runs from left to right or from top to bottom. So they're sort of picking up on all these things through exposure to books, even if they're really simple, thick board books, than they get from just that flat experience. This is when they're really little. I do believe that there is a point where they can learn from an ebook, but the early research suggests that parents, and I don't know who said this, but someone said that your lap is the best app. So just that dynamic contingent response of the parent is so much more powerful than them trying to navigate an educational game or book on your phone when they're really little.
One of the saddest things I think I've ever heard is one of our family friends. She's a nurse and has 3 kids. And she said, with the advent of the iPhone, my kids don't ask me any questions anymore. And she said, I used to ask my dad all these questions, my mom all these questions. Now when we're in the car, they're just going through, finding out their answer themselves. And, asking grandma, asking grandpa, there's a relationship that she thought that they were missing because of it.
Yes. And what's missing is, again, those relationships, the shared stories, shared experiences. And in conversation, you'll ask a question, and even if you don't have the answer, I think it teaches you to engage and to think. So sometimes my daughter will ask me a question, and instead of saying, oh, let me Google that or look it up, I'll say, oh, well, here's what I think might be the case, and here's why I think that, and what do you think? And try to dig into it and have a conversation around that. And then at some point we will look it up and find out what what the facts are and what the issues are, and then we can come back and discuss it. But it's that back and forth that's so powerful, and the thinking in a way that just, what does Google say doesn't give you necessarily. There is that point when they're older where you absolutely are reading to learn new things, and you're going to dig into the science book or the social studies text and get a lot out of that. But we can't, I think as parents, we have to embrace our power as teachers and know that a lot of that is conversational. And it's about the little things that we do daily. The consistency of this habit of conversation is really powerful over time.
Payne Smart is our guest. She has written a book. It's incredible, and I think so valuable. Reading for Our Lives, a literacy action plan from birth to six. Maya, we know all the great ones in sports are focused. Obviously, your husband is. But you're a great one in something that goes beyond basketball. You had to be focused. You talk about writing to a great extent during COVID. Is that right? And you need to. And you said it, I believe, to Shaka. I need help here. And you quote him, I believe, as being the world's most supportive husband. How did he give you an assist in that regard?
He is. He's really supportive. He understands the vision, and we've always been a team, our family unit. So for many years, it was just the two of us. But over time, when you add Zora into the mix, it complicates schedules. It complicates all kinds of things. And kids, we just have one, but kids have needs, right, from both parents. So just in terms of calendar coordination, and he often is the person who picks up from soccer practice now, or some of these other things, or coordinating travel. I've been traveling more to do speaking engagements, and so he fully supports that and is engaged in finding a way for it to work for us. And I think he values the mission and what I'm trying to do, and is, as you said, just offers great support and assists in that respect.
Obviously a mission for you. You poured your heart and your soul into this work. Maya, how satisfying is it to know that as time goes on, you're going to be impacting thousands of people, moms, dads, children, by extension?
It is incredible. Initially, when you're a first-time author and you put your book out into the world and you're starting to get feedback from people in your immediate circle. So, my mom, my aunts were early readers of the book. And
yes, John Dodd's mom, right? Everybody has a...
And so over time, it sort of rolls out and you're starting to get Amazon reviews or Goodreads reviews from people you have no idea where they are, and they're from places you haven't visited. And with speaking invitations, I've been all over the country. I've been in New Mexico and California. I have upcoming events. I have one coming up in Idaho. I've never been to Idaho, but someone in Idaho read the book and thought it would be valuable. So I'll be speaking at an early educator conference there next year. So it is starting. I'm starting to feel that momentum and getting to that tipping point where I think it will become, not only because of my book, but we'll get to that tipping point where everyone understands the importance of all of us doing more with young children earlier and more consistently in order to really have an impact on the reading success of our nation. There's so much focus on the school years and improving curriculum and teacher training, and all of those things are critically important. But by engaging parents to do our part more knowledgeably and consistently and impactfully early, it just puts that strong foundation in place, and then they can get to school, take advantage of good instruction and soar, but you need both.
It has to be a fabulous feeling, too, to know that when you're speaking, people are totally into it because they realize the importance of this subject and the work that you have done.
Yes, it's wonderful to be with people like both of you who've read and enjoyed the book and shared it with others and agree that this is a critical issue that we all need to pay more attention to, and that there's a role outside of schools for communities and families to play in making a difference.
You have fielded many questions, not only here, but of course nationally and locally about the book. Is there something maybe that we haven't touched on, or something that you walk away saying, I wish we'd gone in this direction, so we leave no stone unturned?
I think the main message that I want to leave specifically with parents of young children is that in any given day, you're going to be pulled in a lot of different directions, and just the basics of feeding, clothing, getting kids to sleep, and all of these little things, you're going to feel distracted, you're going to feel busy, often you're going to feel fatigued. But by making a conscious decision to prioritize your child's language and literacy development, you're doing something that has a positive impact in every other element of their life. If you get this right, it will help them so much throughout the course of their entire lives. And so I think parents should also know, one, that you can have an impact, a very powerful impact, and that you can have that impact by doing things as simple as engaging in back and forth conversations with your child, as simple as pointing to the print on the cereal box and talking about letters and building their vocabulary.
Shaka Smart is not the only gentleman or person employed by Marquette University. Talk to us about your role in education at Marquette.
So I am an affiliated faculty in the College of Education, which just is a wonderful honor for me as someone who came to this work not as an educator. So I came to this, as we discussed, as a parent, a very curious parent, and I have a journalism background. So I've had the honor to begin participating in the Marquette community. I've been on panels about education and excellence and equity, and have visited some of the summer reading programs through Marquette, and am building relationships with faculty, and will be teaching at a point soon after I'm off the road from some of the speaking. So I'm really looking forward to have that opportunity of building relationships with students as well. So I'm very grateful to Marquette for giving me that opportunity.
I think the students will be blessed. We talk often about reinventing ourselves. At a young age, it sounds as not only as an author, but now as a teacher. That has to be quite interacting with people and trying to help them go out and be the best version of themselves.
Yes, it's definitely been an evolution for me. For a number of years, I've been very focused on libraries and literacies, but mostly from a volunteer perspective. So serving as the treasurer of the Library Foundation Board, or being on the board of a literacy coalition in one of the communities where we lived, or serving on the board of a YWCA that had some early education programs. So I've always enjoyed that work and volunteering, but I think in this season of my life, I'm stepping into more of a national thought leadership role, and that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. The thing that struck me about the book is it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how rich, how many books you buy for your kid, how many books you read to. It's providing a platform in addition, in preparation, and it can be at the store. It could be just engaging the child. There's so much benefits to that, and if you could spread that word around, that would be it'd be incredibly valuable for all concerned.
Yes, because there are many parents who had bad or traumatic even educational experiences. So they are parents who don't feel capable of teaching their child to read or supporting their child's literacy, and they just feel like, I didn't succeed at it, how could I help my child? And so the lesson of a book like this is you can help through conversations. And so how does that message get to that parent that's not going to pick up a hardbound 240-page book and be able to navigate that to get the lessons? There's an audiobook version of it, so people are listening to it and learning the lessons. I'm doing a lot of professional development with librarians who engage with families through story times and other library programming so that they can spread the message to parents, or I'm doing short videos on Instagram. So just trying to find all the ways to get the message and the lessons to parents, even if it's not in the package of the book.
My mother, as I mentioned before, she's now 90, and she was looking forward. She's looking forward to this as her favorite guest on our show in the last 2 years.
I'm honored.
And she was saying that, as I said, I was a guinea pig, but she would do certain things where she would buy a book on a record back in the 60s. They didn't have a book on tape, but on a record. And then she would read a book to me and then give me the book and have me listen and try to follow with it, because she thought that would improve my vocabulary. And I said, Mom, this is how I ended up like this, because I was your guinea pig. But no, I think that really helped me early on, that stimulation in that platform.
I haven't seen any studies on it yet, but I've heard just anecdotally from a number of parents who've done something similar, which is if they allow their child to watch a cartoon or a show like that, they would put closed captioning on So the words are appearing, scrolling on the bottom of the screen. And some felt like that had an impact. And so there hasn't been a researcher that's measured the impact. We don't know if that's true, but I think what it shows is that you have an engaged parent who's pairing the words and language with print. And I think that's powerful. And another mom told me she didn't even realize her son could read until his kindergarten teacher told her that he was kind of the king of kindergarten and had these amazing reading skills. And what she discovered was it was because she and her husband had a karaoke business. And so this little one had spent years in preschool watching people sing songs with the text scrolling next to them. And so he had made that connection along with whatever other reading and things they were doing. So I think another lesson from that for parents is do the little things. Like, don't think that you have to go through a workbook that has 100 lessons. Do what you can in the way that fits into your everyday life. And it all helps.
I'm thinking about technology, not always great, but it certainly is in allowing you to get the word out, Maya, correct? You talk about Instagram and what, that's really neat.
Yes. And then I've been able to do just a lot of workshops over Zoom. And so initially I thought, well, it's not as powerful as in person. And what I've realized is that it's just different. It's still powerful. It's still people who are engaged in the content and learning. And so it's just a different way to get the message out. So I think every day there are more and more new ways. I've been doing a lot of podcasts. Mm-hmm. So there are just more and more ways to get the messages to people wherever they are, even if it's in their car commuting to work.
You have a website. Would you talk about that, please, as well as how people can access this wonderful book?
Yes. So my website is my name, mayasmart.com, MAYASMART.com. And every week I publish new resources, free resources for families. So I'll publish a roundup of books for Father's Day or whatever holidays and seasonal things are coming up. We publish Read With Me recipes, which give parents an opportunity to make really simple recipe smoothies, for example. And the point of that one was the recipe card featured words with the ooh sound, like smoothie or fruit, and you could point out different spellings of the same sound. And so in everything we do, we're trying to have easy ways for parents to incorporate literacy practices into their day. So each week there's something new at mayasmart.com/resources. And then in terms of the book, it's available in all the major retailers online, so Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and your local independent bookseller may also have it. If you go to mayasmart.com/book, there are links to several outlets that are selling the physical book as well as the audiobook. So you can find links there and pick the retailer of your choice.
Maya Payne Smart, thank you so much. It's beautiful. One more time, Reading for Our Lives, a literacy action plan from birth to 6. For John Dawes, our producer, Jason Ruck, I'm Tom Pippins. Thanks for being with us, everybody, on the MarquetteHoop.com basketball show, brought to you by Moonlight Grand, the proud sponsor of the program, Craig Caston. We thank you very much. Modern Dental Benefits. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Until next time, God bless you, and go Golden Eagle.